Well, first of all, I thought the panel was super exciting, super interesting. Each of the speakers had their own unique viewpoint, but I think together they really told a compelling story about both where cross-border payments are now and some of the challenges and opportunities ahead. So from where I sat, again, a lot of innovative products across the other banks, but they were using their existing infrastructure. So the question in my mind said, okay, how do we scale this? How do we get to the next level with cross-border payments? Because there's some big challenges out there. The US has no plans of having CBDC. It's not even in sight anywhere, so that's not going to happen. ISO 20022 is still very new both in people's minds and how to go about actually implementing it. And so what do you do if you're a bank or if you're a customer? Do you wait? Do you dive in? Do you partner? Do you call GFT for help? Hopefully that's one of the answers. But so for me, it was a really interesting level setting that we're in a really good place, but we've got a long way to go. And in some ways, it reminds me of the early days of the internet, if you can remember back that far. Back then, there were regional network providers that some were easy to get onto, some weren't easy to get onto. Parts of the world were dark as far as the internet was concerned. But over time, all those little networks and bigger networks kind of came together, and it became really easy. Now obviously we take all of this for granted at this point, but I think it feels the same way, where there's some great tools out there, there's some great initiatives out there, but again, they're in pods and silos right now. And the challenge, I think, for us as a combined community, what do we do to get to the next level? And that's something I hope we all can figure out together. Well, I think it always starts with the customer. It's kind of a cliche, but customer experience is the most important thing. But if you think about it, that's really true. On the personal side, people want an easy way to get money from one country to another. If they're working in another country, they have relatives, et cetera, et cetera. They want the fees to be transparent and predictable, and they want it to be fast and trustworthy. From the corporate perspective, so much opportunity around supply chain, just-in-time supply chain building would be alleviated by having cross-border payments locked and loaded. And also the settlements are so much quicker, et cetera. So the two big sort of customer groups, retail and corporate, if you will, are ripe for this. So that was a priority that our clients and both our end clients and our banking clients are talking about. So from our perspective, the first important thing is understanding what the business case is. Because again, it's kind of like AI. Let's all do AI. Okay, why? Well, because everybody's doing it, or because there's an appetite for it. That's all great, but what are we going to get out of it? Is this a 1-year return? Is it a 3-year return? Is it a 5-year return? So what's the business case? That's the first thing they ask us. And they also, as we help them understand use cases, it's both the what do they want to get done? Is it a super app that my retail customers want, or something else? But it's the how. How am I going to do this? Do I go and partner? Do I bring smart contracts to the table and blockchain to the table? How do I do my orchestration? What about compliance? So they're asking us all these many, many questions about how to get from here to there in a way without, falling down and hurting themselves or ending up on the front page of the newspaper, for the wrong reasons. So we tend to be trusted advisors. That is our role as GFT. And we try to figure out, after the what and the how, the double click on that how is, what does the tech stack look like? We are engineers at heart. We're sort of business people on the one end and engineers on the other. So understanding what the current portfolio is complex in many banks. Nobody has a clean sheet. Oh, we'll just implement this. No, I can't do that because I have back-end systems that are old. I have new systems that haven't been integrated. I have such pressure to deliver more and more things quickly. But again, knitting it all together in a way that makes some sense without breaking the bank or the schedule, I think is really, really important. And finally, what do we do with the ecosystem? If I'm a bank, do I just say, I want more people to put money in my bank, that's my growth strategy? Or is it partnering with a credit card company or with another adjacency in my market to make that multiplier happen? So we try to help them figure those things out. Again, those are their priorities, but they're really good ones too. Yeah, there are three. So the first is, we just delivered recently a very large project with MasterCard, with cross-border services it's called. So again, we're using existing infrastructure, but in a way that again, elevates that to the next level. And so a ton of existing infrastructure being used, but it's sort of services that a bank will buy. So again, if I'm a bank, I don't want to do this all myself. I'll go to MasterCard and say, can you help me do this cross-border payment? They say yes, and we're off to the races. And for the record, this XBS or cross-border service is kind of a competitor to SWIFT, but it's cheaper, easier to get onboarded. And again, that's one of the barriers to entry. If you can reduce those, you're really going to make a dent in the flywheel starts for success. The second thing we do from an initiative perspective is UDPN. That is Universal Digital Payments Network, something that GFT pioneered with a couple of other partners. And that is actually a way to get involved with cross-border payments in certain countries. Again, it's not available in the US in production, but we have something called the Sandbox, UDPN Sandbox, that customers from the US or anywhere in the world can get their hands dirty with this, figure out how it could work for them, and then again, as the regs roll out, as the demand is there, they can plug into that framework and get some cross-border payments going relatively quickly. And finally, the GFT services are around educational. A lot of customers are coming to us and saying, I love this stuff, I'm excited about it, everybody seems to be about to jump in, how do I get started? So it's everything from discovery, to looking at the risk audit. Always look at the risk audit thing first. Again, use cases, journeys, what are the touch points that I want to get to with my customers, be they retail customers or corporate customers. And then for me, data strategy. Everybody loves to talk about AI, but data strategy is more important because where my data is buried or where it is siloed, if I can drop those silos down, I can get some things together. That gets me that 360 view from a data perspective that I can move into information and then value from there. And finally, an orchestration layer. That's going to be the name of the game in the short term. No one is going to say, go here, click a switch, everybody has instant cross-border payments. It's going to be, for quite a while, how do I orchestrate these transactions across geos, across business units, across technologies, across old technology and new technology, and then come up with something that is useful. That's where the action is going to be in the next 3 to 5 years, at the orchestration, the automation, and the integration layer. And also, finally, if you go one click under on the tech side, KYC is really big. We do a lot of work there. Smart contracts, blockchain, and DLT in general do a lot of work there because, again, those are pieces and gears in this overall larger machine. And, of course, AI, you have to say it, AI is there. But, again, for us, it's are we pragmatic about AI? Always, always, always focused on a business value, a use case, and a customer at the other end of that transaction. That's some of the things we're doing here at GFT.